Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. Today, I would like to talk about the differences between urgent and important. Jim, kick us off.
Yeah, well, I would say that this is really a matter of time frame and significance. Okay, so something that's urgent is something that needs to happen sooner rather than later. You might not have a choice in terms of when it gets done. The time frame for urgency can vary based on the size of the project. If you're building a house or selling a company, that can be 6 to 12 months. But if you're just doing something day to day, it can be much, much shorter than that. And then importance is really whether it has a meaningful impact on your business or not. You can actually sort of tie the two together in something called the Eisenhower matrix, which was used in Stephen Covey's work, which says that if something's urgent and important, you just do it now. If something's not urgent but important, you plan for it. And if something's not important and not urgent, you just don't do it at all. Okay.
Makes sense.
So my question then would be, because urgency and importance is also very subjective. How do you balance between what is important and urgent for you versus either your partner or a client with two different expectations? That was always, when I first started out as a business manager, online business manager, it's like, okay, what is the urgency that will require you to call me on Saturday night after receiving a ton of letters and emails with timelines to let you know what's leading up to, and it was waiting until the last moment? Is it my urgency too, just because of your unreadiness?
Yeah.
I'm totally ill-equipped for this conversation. My idea of important and urgent is the last email that came in through my email box, and I need help. Help, please. I think I'd rather be a listener of this conversation than I would a participant. However, I think Jim, I like the way Jim started with the whole time analogy. I have a rule that I use, which I often use with my clients and sometimes with myself, which is ABCD: alligators, bears, crows, and dogs. So alligators are important and urgent. They're going to bite you in the arse and it's going to hurt and it's going to take ages to recover from. The bears, they're scary, but they rumble around in the woods and they don't bother you. The crows, they make a lot of noise and they just buzz around your head. And then the dogs, you just don't need to worry about, just get rid of them. It's a bit like the do, dump, delay philosophy, isn't it? But for me, the alligator thing, I understand. I get that. They're scary. Although actually, alligators don't attack people, do they? It's crocodiles that actually attack people. So maybe I need to relook at that. But I get that. My problem is I understand the philosophy and I can train it and teach it. But when that next email comes in, I am Mr. Shiny New Thing, and unfortunately, that is not probably urgent or important, or it's probably about my car insurance or something that is equally as weird. And I find myself in this space doing the car insurance going, I should be dealing with that, I should be doing this. So I think when I know it's urgent is when I actually stop doing what I'm doing and go, I really should be doing this. And if that happens, then I know this must be urgent. There's something subconscious going on, but I struggle to bring it to the fore, and I think that's what a lot of other people struggle with as well.
So are we talking about creating priorities and planning before things become fires that have to be fought? And that if you don't have the priorities and the planning, which determines what's urgent, what's important, then you end up with everything being urgent because you've got a fire on your hands.
Yeah, and friction results in a group environment when something's urgent for someone else, but not necessarily urgent for you. But if something is urgent for a client and not urgent for you, I tend to put the client's urgency ahead of my own.
Which can lead to burnout eventually if you have too many clients demanding your urgency.
Yeah.
It goes back to just open conversation and reassessing the planning part and communicating and getting on the same page with. I love the ABCD analogy.
And
right?
I think that, I absolutely agree. I think if you plan, so for instance, in my case, this sort of shiny new email thing, which I'm still wrestling with, but actually if I sat down at the beginning of the week and said, I'm going to do emails Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and on Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to tackle other issues. that allows me to maybe take a slight strategic step back from the shiny new thing. And it's in that stepping back space that you're alluding to, Robyn. In that stepping back space, that's when we're able to identify the urgent. If we're at the point where everything's urgent, it's sort of too late, isn't it? And we need to firefight our way out of it. But we need to firefight to a point where we can step back. And you know, I could say to myself, right, on a Tuesday, no emails, get focusing on that stuff. And if I started doing that and implemented it and cared about it, then things would start to get easier, because you would start controlling all the issues.
Well, there's something interesting in that, Tim, and that is that if everything is urgent, then you obviously didn't do something that was important. Right? So you missed it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. But did you not do? So I'm defending myself here. So if I didn't do it because it was important, because there was something urgent in the way of my importance, because I didn't do something important.
Oh yeah, you have structural issues at that point.
So help. I mean,
well, that was the question I was going to ask. Is for those of us who find ourselves in that firefight, everything every day is putting out a fire that we could have squelched 6 weeks ago had we realized and had time to notice it, but we were fighting a different fire. How do we get out of that horrible cycle?
Take control.
So Eisenhower's solution was that if it was urgent but not important, then you delegate it, which is a start, but that might not be enough.
Well, and then having the energy and the time to even be able to delegate, because delegation takes a certain level of intellectual ability.
Almost too late at that point sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. I think back to your point, Sarah, communication.
Yeah, and then also the mindset piece, because I know for sure I need some fire burning underneath my chair at all times to get on moving. And when I have a ton of space, it's usually like, oh, I'll just procrastinate. So that's what I usually tap into the mindset, even as an athlete. It's like, okay, game time, have some sense of urgency. Before we even get down 10, 15, 20 points, 2 minutes to go, don't let it get that far. So then it's just putting yourself in a mental space of, okay, game time. What do I have to do? What needs my attention? Knocking it out and moving on. Because oftentimes it's not even going to take 10 hours, but when you're in the zone, it's like 2.5, bam, done.
I think also if the issue is personal, like, you know, well, it is personal, isn't it? You've got to the urgent state because your personality is not allowed you to deal with the important. You know, there are systemic things you can do, and one of the things I've found that's really helped me, and it is slow climb out of the shiny new thing problem I've got, is with my business partners, we've sort of started to have peer group assessments. So, you know, the online project management tools, or, you know, regular meetings where there are actions that you're held accountable for, and those sorts of things start then to drive what's important to the collective. And now, and in Jim's, I'm a bit like Jim, you know, if the collective's urgency is there, I'm up to supporting that. If it's my urgency, somehow it gets trampled on and vanishes down a hole somewhere. So, and I think what you can do though is manipulate the collective urgency to be what's urgent to you as well. So I think there are systemic ways to solve it, but I think dealing with it's not immediate. I think that's, if you're in that urgent space, you've got it's nudge theory at that point, one step at a time, an hour here, an hour there, break the cycle.
Yeah, because even if you look at a hospital setting, when it's literally life and death matter, they still need to follow certain steps, certain systems, procedures to make sure that what they're dealing with, it really is going to help.
I also think that too often many of us run right at that edge, like we're resilient and we've got grit and we're running right at that edge. And if a wrench, or if you're English, a spanner, gets thrown in the works, then everything's a disaster because you have no capacity. So I think that the urgent, important thing also has to do with capacity. How close to capacity are you running? That
zone between not being busy enough and being too busy is surprisingly narrow.
Isn't it though?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. That is our 10 minutes, so I'm going to cut us off there. Thank you so much for helping me understand urgency and importance and helping me talk through it, because that's been super helpful. We'll do it again very soon.